In the dry hills of Ajao Ridge, where the harmattan dust sits on people's eyelashes like sorrow, there lived a girl called Zainab. She was 18, but hunger made her look older. She lived in a one-room clay hut behind the abandoned palm wine shed. No proper door, just a sack hung over nails. When rain fell, her roof didn't just leak, it performed. She had been alone since she was 9. Not because she wanted independence, but because when her parents died during a strange fever that swept the ridge, the village did what villages sometimes do best. They explained cruelty with tradition. She carries bad air, they whispered. Misfortune follows orphans. Don't let her touch your things. So Zainab survived the only way she could. Every dawn, while the sky was still dark like a burnt pot, she walked into the Oru forest to cut dry branches. She'd tie them into a bundle, balance it on her head, and carry it to market to sell. And almost every time, she returned with the same bundle, and a stomach that felt like it had been folded. Still, Zainab had one sickness the village couldn't cure her of. She couldn't stop being kind. If a child fell, she lifted them. If a goat got trapped, she freed it. If someone dropped coins, she picked them up and chased the owner, despite the insults that followed. One evening, after 2 days without real food, she found a thin boy by the stream eating a raw mango like it was a prayer. He looked hungry enough to swallow stones. Zainab removed the last small groundnut cake she had been saving, broke it in half, and gave it to him. The boy didn't even say thank you. He just stared at her like he was memorizing her face. She thought nothing of it. Kindness had never paid her before. The next day, Zainab was deep in the forest, working until her palms stung. She tied her bundle, hoisted it up, and started the long walk home. Then she saw him, an old man, maybe in his late 70s, moving slowly like every joint was negotiating. He had a bundle of firewood so heavy it looked ridiculous on his small frame. Twice, he staggered. Once, he almost fell. Zainab froze. His path headed east. Her hut was west. Her legs already shook from weakness. Her eyes were hot with hunger. Everything in her body begged, keep going. You can't afford someone else's trouble. But something else inside her, quiet, stubborn, refused. She stepped toward him. Baba, let me help you. The old man turned. His face was full of lines, but his eyes were strangely clear, like fresh water. You have your own load, he said. Zainab forced a smile. This one is not heavy. It was a lie. She lowered her own bundle, split his wood, stacked half onto hers, and lifted both. Her neck screamed. Still, she carried it. They walked, and walked, and walked. The path became longer than it looked. The forest became darker than it should. And for a moment, Zainab felt like she was not walking through trees, but through something watching. Finally, they reached a small compound hidden behind thick shrubs. The place looked old, too quiet, too still, like it hadn't heard laughter in years. Zainab dropped the wood and collapsed to her knees, breath tearing out of her throat. The old man stared at her closely. You're hungry, he said softly. Zainab tried to deny it, but her stomach betrayed her with a loud, painful growl. The old man went inside his hut and returned with a bowl of warm porridge and a little peppered sauce. Zainab ate like someone afraid the food might disappear if she blinked. When she finished, the old man nodded slowly, as if confirming something. Then he went back into the hut again. He returned holding a small, neatly tied cloth. He opened it. Inside was a bracelet, not gold, not silver. It looked like dark leather woven with tiny beads that shimmered faintly. Simple, but it carried a presence. Take, the old man said. Zainab's eyes widened. Baba, I can't accept it. You can. It's too valuable. The old man leaned closer. It is not for value. It is for direction. He placed the bracelet in her palm. It felt warm, like it had been resting against a living body. What does it do? She whispered. The old man's smile was small. It will show you what you are becoming. Before Zainab could ask anything else, he added, wear it, but don't use it to boast. And don't use it to punish. Zainab swallowed. I don't even have the power to punish anyone." The old man's eyes softened. "You'd be surprised what hunger can turn into." The next morning, Zainab went to the market with her firewood, the bracelet hidden under her sleeve. She expected the usual insults, the laughter, the orphan girl, shift. But something changed. People's eyes followed her differently. Not with pity, not with disgust, with attention. A woman who sold yams called out first. "Girl, bring your wood here." Zainab blinked. "Me? Yes, you. Your wood is dry. I'll buy it all." The woman paid her fairly. No cheating, no delay. A man beside them even added a little extra and said, "You are trying." Zainab walked home with money in her hand and confusion in her chest. She touched the bracelet. It warmed. Soon, a farm owner hired her, 1 meal a day included. Then another woman asked her to help at her shop. Then the village record keeper, an old, stern man, noticed how fast Zainab learned numbers and letters. "You can read?" he asked. "My mother taught me a little," she replied. That night, Zainab sat in her hut and stared at her hands. Everything was changing too quickly. The bracelet kept warming whenever she chose patience instead of anger, and cooling whenever bitterness rose in her chest. It was as if it wasn't rewarding her hard work. It was measuring her heart. One afternoon, Zainab passed a group of women gossiping. She heard her name and stopped. "That orphan girl has found luck. It must be Juju. She will soon show her true colors." Zainab's chest tightened. The bracelet warmed. Not comfort warm, warning warm. That night, she lay awake imagining all the mean faces, the stones, the mockery. For the first time in years, she had options. She could become powerful, feared. She could return pain for pain. And then she remembered the old man's words. Don't use it to punish. Zainab sat up, sweating. She realized the bracelet didn't create evil in her. It only revealed how close it already was. Zainab saved her money. She rented a small stall, selling grains and dried pepper. She bought from struggling farmers and paid them promptly. And because she didn't cheat, people trusted her. Trust became her real wealth. Soon, she expanded, hiring 2 young girls who had nowhere to go. She fed them, paid them well, and treated them like humans. The village started calling her Madam Zainab, some with respect, some with jealousy. But Zainab kept quiet, kept building, and every time she helped without expecting anything, the bracelet warmed like a heartbeat. Exactly 1 year after that night in the forest, Zainab opened a small home for abandoned girls. Clean beds, food, school fees, safety. The whole ridge gathered for the opening. People clapped. Some cried. Even those who had mocked her came to pretend they were proud. Zainab stood in front of everyone, her voice steady but her eyes wet. "I know hunger," she said. "I know what it means to be treated like you are not human. This place is so no girl sleeps feeling invisible again." Cheers rose. Then the crowd parted. A man walked forward, tall, calm, wearing a plain brown cap. Not the old man, not even close. Zainab frowned. The man stopped in front of her and smiled. And Zainab's precious bracelet went cold, ice cold. The man leaned in slightly and said quietly, "You finally built the thing I hoped you would." Zainab's throat tightened. "Who are you?" The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'm the boy by the stream." Zainab's mind spun. He continued, "You gave me half your food when you had nothing. I followed you for weeks after that. I wanted to see if you were truly kind or if you were performing kindness for a reward." Zainab couldn't speak. The man glanced at the bracelet on her wrist. That bracelet wasn't magic. Zainab's breath caught. He raised his hand and showed a small mark on his own wrist. Same design, same beads. "It is an old oath band," he said. "A test used by certain families in this region. It warms when your actions match your values. It cools when your heart starts turning." Zainab's lips trembled. "So you planned all this?" The man's face softened. "I didn't plan your success. You did. Your consistency did. Your honesty did. The band only did one thing. It made sure you didn't forget yourself while life improved." Zainab's eyes filled with tears. Then she whispered, And the old man? The man looked toward the forest line. There was no old man. Zainab staggered back. No, I carried him. I ate with him. I entered his compound. The man nodded gently. You entered an abandoned place. You carried extra wood. You collapsed. You survived. Sometimes when you are near breaking, your mind creates a face for your lesson, a voice for your turning point. Zainab covered her mouth, shaking. Then the man said, 1 year ago, you were already rich, Zainab. You just didn't have the money to prove it. He turned to the crowd and raised his voice. This woman is blessed, yes, not by charms, but by a heart that stayed clean even when life was dirty. The crowd went quiet. People looked at Zainab differently now, like they were seeing what had been there all along. The man faced her again. Keep the bracelet, he said, not because it brings riches, but because it reminds you, he tapped his chest lightly, that the real curse is becoming cruel after you finally escape cruelty. Then he walked away into the crowd, and even though he disappeared among the faces, Zainab knew something deep in her bones. The test wasn't over, because life would keep offering new chances to forget herself. Zainab touched the bracelet. This time it warmed, slowly, steadily, like a promise. Sometimes the magic that changes your life isn't a charm. It's the moment you choose kindness when nobody is watching. And sometimes the universe doesn't bless you immediately. It tests whether you'll still be you when the pain finally lifts. Thanks for watching.